Well done, Comrade General. We have analyzed flight plan of this rocket ship. It is programmed to fly to the moon. We must find out why. You have cosmonaut training, yes?
The liftoff was without complications, Comrade General. You'll achieve lunar orbit in moments. Your retro rockets should fire automatically to allow for a smooth landing. Take care, my General. You have many reasons to return safely, no? Retro rockets will fire in 3, 2, 1. Your spacecraft has landed, Comrade General.
Finally, Soviets have reached the moon. One baby step for Comrade General, one giant leap for Soviet people, yes?
Incoming transmission. The spacecraft's computer has revealed Yuri's plan to us. Yuri's moon base is nearby. He will evacuate to this base with an army of clones once the Psychic Dominator network has been activated. The base must be eliminated.
Sir, Yuri is deploying a new unit called the Magnetron. It can generate a powerful electromagnetic field that can drag our tanks towards it. This thing is Yuri's mastermind. It can take control of our units just as Yuri himself can. We have discovered its weakness though. It can only control so many of our units before it overloads itself and is destroyed. Battle control online. Unit lost.
Welcome back, Commander.
To the east, there is open ground suitable for base construction.
As you can imagine, you're not supposed to lose your MCV at the start. I'm not exactly sure how that ever occurred. Something about units maybe not spawning in fast enough, or I don't know. In any case, you can imagine how this is a very interesting mission to play through. We already have the Soviet equivalent of the Rocketeer, although the Soviet cosmonaut is much, much better.
Unit promoted. Construction complete.
At the very least, they feel like they do more damage. The speed, though, and the relative qualities of their targeting and so on seem to mirror Rocketeers well enough.
Complete. Cannot deploy here. Incoming transmission.
As one might imagine, there's also some limitations with what units you can get. Essentially, you're locked out of a good portion of the units that you would normally use. This also means that the Yuri's forces are also limited in what they can send at you. Now, it doesn't affect them all that much, just considering the units that they typically have, but at least you don't have to worry about a flood of initiates or Yuri clones walking around and taking control of your units. That being said, they do have the mastermind, so kinda you still have to worry about some stuff. Now, the other big change that's probably apparent to the viewer at this point is you don't have an income stream. Everything you have is
Unit ready.
just whatever you got at the start. This can cause a few issues.
Base is under attack.
And while technically I prefer flooding the area with as many cosmonauts as possible, so that they can do damage and just kind of blitz through everything possible, you will absolutely still need some form of tank defenses or units on the ground.
Unit lost.
Cosmonauts, for as good as they are, do suffer from being rather fragile, much like Rocketeers.
Ready, comrade. Reading me. Cosmonaut reporting. Vehicle reporting.
Our base is under attack.
Encountering enemy. Ready, enemy.
Unit promoted.
Now, the game mentions how the Mastermind likes to take control over many units and you can overload it, but I've never really noticed that happen. It seems to occur more if you have like a lot of infantry or, you know, a bunch of garbage units to throw at it. And it leads into the other problem that you generally find with mind control units, which is,
Training.
especially in terms of the AI you might fight, but your own units will target the nearest enemy unit, which means it will target your own, and anyways, just causes a bunch of problems.
Unit lost. Unit ready. Unit promoted.
The only the only solution I've really come to for at least this level is just to essentially have like 2 groups of cosmonauts if you can.
Unit ready.
Cosmonaut reporting.
Maybe churn out a couple Gatling cannons, but even those are kind of pitiable under the circumstances.
Unit promoted. Unit ready.
Fuel mix optimized.
Unit promoted.
Honestly, with enough Terra drones lying around and some flak cannons to protect your base, you kind of don't have to worry about much of what Yuri does. And obviously having some units on the ground just as backup. It might not seem like much, but destroying that minor base in the mid-left is actually very important. It's the only other place that you're going to get an extra amount of funds. And like a few of the levels, you kind of have to go through a build-up phase just because you really can't afford to throw anything away. As far as I can tell, Yuri also has some limitations on how much money he has and what he can do, but it never really feels like quite the same, just because. And we can kind of see how just having a very large army getting into this base, a couple of mind control things happen, and now my force is about a third, if not less than that, of what it used to be. I don't really know of a good way to really go through all this either. It's kind of a matter of bringing up the cosmonauts, seeing if they can damage or destroy anything out of range of any of the anti-air units. And as soon as they come across any sort of intervening forces, like Mastermind or the Gatling cannons, you pull them back and do the dance between the 2 groups. Now, thankfully for me, there seem to have been some triggers, or at least I managed to hit the radius for this Mastermind's particular defensive perimeter. So that's one less thing to worry about.
Booster engaged. Generator coming. Moving. Full charge. Beam intensity locked. Wire on extraction.
Unit promoted.
Optimized.
So yeah, cosmonauts can be quite dangerous. You really don't want to have to face any that are at max level, because they will honestly shred things rather quickly.
Unit promoted.
Power. Russian space. Rocket packs fully charged. Beam intensity locked. I have the power. Shifting reading meters. Moving. Ready, comrade.
There's also the annoying part that even though Yuri can't really do too much, I guess kind of like my own base, I've got very little left, barely any money. I could probably afford a cosmonaut or two, tops, and that's about it. Being in that sort of stalemate is just kind of problematic. You don't have the means to repair anything,
Unit promoted.
either because you don't have a building that auto repairs units, and you also don't have the money to repair said units.
On the hour. Unit promoted.
So when you're tasked with having to destroy the rest of Yuri's buildings, it's a bit of a tricky situation, really.
Time for laser.
Unit promoted.
Optimized. Rid them from area. Rocket packs fully charged. Rid them from area.
Unit lost.
Rocket packs fully charged. Power. Moving.
Our base is under attack. Unit promoted.
Reading meters. Encountering enemy.
So yeah, you could probably waste a bunch of Yuri's money just by having him constantly rebuild a couple of the same power plants and destroying them and back and forth. Obviously, it's not really worth it. So your best bet is to, at some point, if you can manage the funds for it, just reinforce whatever you have and then kind of go for broke. I'm sure on the earlier difficulties, or easier difficulties, it's much different. You don't have to worry quite as much about how many units you're pumping out. But when you're on hard, yeah, there's a significant problem assaulting this base. As soon as you take out most, if not all, of Yuri's power, he's basically defenseless too, which kind of makes me wish that there was a trigger to just sell all his stuff. There's nothing he can do at this point, so it just kind of wastes some time.
Yuri finally succeeded in delaying the inevitable. I recommend.
Mission accomplished.